Ever felt like you're running on empty, mentally and emotionally drained? It's an all too familiar feeling for many, but recognizing it for what it is, emotional and mental exhaustion, can be a challenge. In this video, we'll be exploring the 7 warning signs that may indicate you're running on fumes, including feelings of sadness, appetite disruption, a lack of patience, sleep disorders, a loss of motivation, irritation, and an inward focus. Stay tuned as we delve into these warning signs. First up, we have sadness, a common sign particularly among the older generation. Sadness often takes root when we're feeling emotionally and mentally exhausted. It's not just about feeling blue, it's a profound sense of desolation that seems to permeate every aspect of our lives. Now you might ask, why sadness? Well, when we're under immense stress, our minds become a whirlwind of anxiety and worry. The world may feel like it's spinning out of control and we're just bystanders watching helplessly. This relentless mental turmoil can leave us feeling drained and, yes, incredibly sad. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack up a steep hill. With every step, the weight seems to increase, making the climb increasingly difficult. That's what mental and emotional exhaustion can feel like. It's a burden that weighs heavily on our hearts, manifesting as persistent sadness. If you find yourself constantly feeling sad and overwhelmed, this could be a sign of emotional exhaustion. Next, we have disruption of appetite, a physical manifestation of mental exhaustion. Our bodies are complex systems, and hormones and neurotransmitters play a vital role in regulating our hunger. When we experience mental exhaustion, it often leads to a hormonal imbalance. For instance, low levels of serotonin can impair the functioning of other hormones and neurotransmitters involved in regulating our appetite. 2 key players in this process are leptin and ghrelin. These hormones, under normal circumstances, help us recognize when we're hungry and when we're full. However, when our bodies are under stress, their functioning can be disrupted, resulting in a loss of appetite. It's important to remember that our bodies and minds are interconnected. Changes in our mental state can have physical repercussions and vice versa, so pay attention to any significant changes in your appetite, as they could be signs of emotional and mental exhaustion. Ever find yourself losing patience more easily than usual? You may think it's just one of those days, but if this is becoming a frequent occurrence, it could be a sign of something deeper. Emotional and mental exhaustion can often lead to irritability and a lack of patience. Think about it. When you're overwhelmed, your mind is preoccupied with a million different things. It's like trying to juggle balls while walking on a tightrope. In such a state, it's tough to concentrate on a single thing or engage in meaningful conversations. So it's no surprise that you might find yourself being short with your colleagues, family, or even the barista who got your coffee order wrong. It's not that you've suddenly turned into an angry bird. It's just that your mental and emotional resources are stretched thin and you're finding it hard to manage. So the next time you find yourself being unusually irritable, take a moment to reflect. Remember, being constantly irritable and short with others could be a sign of emotional and mental exhaustion. Trouble sleeping? Or maybe you're sleeping too much. Sleeping disorders are often the body's distress signal, hinting at underlying emotional and mental exhaustion. Just as a car's check engine light flashes when something's off, changes in your sleep patterns can be your mind's way of signaling that all is not well. When we're mentally and physically drained, our sleep becomes the first casualty. You might find yourself tossing and turning at night, unable to switch off the constant whirl of thoughts. This is insomnia, a common symptom of emotional exhaustion. Conversely, you might find yourself sleeping excessively, a condition known as hypersomnia. This too can be a sign of mental fatigue as your body attempts to recharge and recover. In both cases, the underlying issue is the same. Your mind and body are crying out for rest and respite. And so, whether it's insomnia or hypersomnia, disruptions in your sleep pattern could be a red flag. Let's talk about motivation, or rather, the lack of it. Ever felt like a marathon runner at the end of a race, completely spent? You've given it your all, and now you just can't bring yourself to take another step. That's what mental and emotional exhaustion can feel like. It's not about being lazy or uninterested, it's about being drained. You're like a battery that needs recharging. And just like that marathon runner, you're not going to feel like running again until you've had time to rest and recover. Think about your favorite activities. Do they ignite the same spark in you as they used to? Or do they feel like yet another marathon you don't have the energy to run? This lack of motivation, especially towards things you usually enjoy, is not a personal failing, it's a warning sign. Feeling unmotivated, particularly towards things you usually enjoy, could be a sign you're emotionally and mentally exhausted. Another sign to look out for is constant irritation. You might wonder, is there a link between irritation, depression, and mental exhaustion? Absolutely. These elements are intertwined in a complex dance of emotions. Think about times when everything is going smoothly in your life. You're not easily bothered, right? Stress and worry are far from your mind. Now imagine the opposite. When we're unable to handle situations, big or small, that's when irritation begins to creep in. It's like a pebble in your shoe, nagging and persistent. Let's say you're stuck in traffic. Normally, you turn up the radio and enjoy the music, but when you're mentally exhausted, every honk and engine roar can feel like a personal affront. This heightened sense of irritation isn't just about being in a bad mood. It's a sign that your mental and emotional resources are running low. Being easily frustrated or irritated could indicate emotional and mental exhaustion. Lastly, we have a tendency to focus inwards. When we're mentally and emotionally exhausted, our world can shrink. We become self-absorbed, not out of narcissism, but as an instinctive response to our internal turmoil. It's like being trapped in a room of mirrors, with every thought and feeling reflecting back on us. We may start to isolate, disengaging from the world around us. Remember, if you're constantly focusing inwards and isolating yourself, it may be time to seek help.